Welcome to Summer School 2023. And I know that we have a diverse audience listening to this. We'll be hosting Social Studies 30-1, Social Studies 30-2, Social Studies 20-1, and Social Studies 20-2. Now, the first and maybe most important question you'll have is, how will you communicate things to us? Each of you have been invited to a Google Classroom. So you need to accept that invite. If you haven't, then you probably aren't listening to this because you had no idea this was happening. But it's through the Google Classroom that you're going to see assignments and tests and all of my lectures and all of my notes. So when you go onto Google Classroom, here's the 31. There's what the 21 looks like. When you go on there, if you go to classwork and go all the way to the bottom, you're going to see what I call an online resource. Those of you that have had me before have seen an online resource before, but many of you have not had me as a teacher. So if you go to your Google Classroom, go to classwork, and go all the way to the bottom, there'll be an online resource. Before summer school begins, you should preview this resource. So what's included in it? Well, I have the 31 already queued up, and I have the 21 all queued up as well. So looking at the 31, you can see that one thing you'll see in the resource is a scope and sequence. It shows the order of our lessons. And it has, on this day, we're doing this lesson or these lessons. So that's what a scope and sequence is. It tells you what is the plan every day for the month of July. Same thing can be seen in Social 20. Here's a scope and sequence. On this day, we're doing this lesson. Also on the 30, you can see that there's extra videos. We call them Williams videos because there's a teacher in Airdrie. She's put the entire course on YouTube. And these are things that you could preview before I lecture live. So before I lecture live with my 30s, I would assume that you've seen the related Williams videos. And for my 30s, I would encourage you to have worked through the textbook. The sooner you can get through the textbook, the better the course will make sense. For my 30s, and I'm not kidding here, my 30s need to have read the textbook before July 3rd. If you're trying to get through the textbook, get through all these lectures, go through these assignments, in the month of July, you're going to be overwhelmed. If you have time in the month of June, you really should work through that textbook. Not working through it to memorize it, not even working through it knowing that there's a test coming, but just getting pre-exposed to the ideas in that textbook. It'll make the world of difference for my 30s. For my 20s, you might be saying, do we need to read the textbook? It's the opposite. Nice thing about summer school, no interruptions. There is no textbook I'm going to be assigning for my 20s. So as my 30s need to work through the textbook, my 20s do not have to do that before July the 3rd. And for my 30s, we're going to use the same textbook for Dash 1 and Dash 2. There is a separate textbook that we hand out at WCHS during the rest of the year for Dash 2. It's a modified version. They tell the same stories. Just so that we can reference the same pages, we're going to use the same textbook. So when you come in to get a textbook from the book room, you'll have to make sure you get the 30-1 textbook. If you don't have a textbook before June the 14th, then maybe on lunchtime, on June 15th, last day of classes at WCHS, we can go down together. If you are from out of WCHS, you don't come to class here right now, then during the first day of summer school, if you have an opportunity on July 3rd to come in, you could pick up a textbook then. But if you're working from out of Wetaskiwin, you might want to see if you can arrange a way to get a textbook, because it is to your benefit to have pre-read that. So we have the scope and sequence. We also have, as you can see with the 30s, this is an evaluation document, meaning what is it that I need to do for marks and when are the marks due? For the 30, you can see that there's work on the 10th and the 11th, and it's in red. So I'm going to use the color red on my scope and sequence to say these are the key dates, and this is how much they're worth, but also within the documents. If there's any assignments, I'll have those assignments within those documents also in red. So those key dates are up here. Now, you could get ahead and say, you know what, I know I'm going to be away on the 21st. Can I write that test on the 19th? You can absolutely write tests early. You can write them late, with the exception that there is a date that everything has got to be due. And everything has to be due at the end of July for both classes. In the 30 class, there will be a diploma in August as well. So we have these dates set there. I'm also going to be taking a look at some minor assignments in both classes. In both classes, I'm going to ask you, as I do in my classes during the year, you need a cast of characters. Every time we encounter someone, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, Montesquieu, Smith, Marx, Robert Owen, you need to take note of these cast of characters. This is the person, Adam Smith. This is what they believe is the role of government, the role of citizen. These are the values that they want to see society built around. So there will be these term projects that together will be worth about 10% of the year. The next thing you see in this online resource is a detailed day-to-day list of our lessons. So you'll see that here in the 30 document. You see it also in the 20 document. You can see that there's a link to a lesson. There's a link to recorded videos. So that's me teaching the lesson. There might be multiple links. And there might be links to enriching or enhancing other videos to help you with that lesson. So before I teach that lesson live, the idea would be you have read the textbook, you've read over my notes, and you've looked at these lectures. So then during my live lesson, we can really purposefully focus on what is it that you don't understand. Because in summer school, every day is a week of class. You're not going to be here for 5 hours every day wanting to spend time with me. So we have to spend our time together as focused as possible. So in our online resource, you're going to see every day the lesson, the links, and you're even going to see the outcomes. What is important about this lesson? So if we can open up a lesson together for a moment, you can see that each lesson has the outcomes. And within the lesson, there might be assignments in red or key ideas in red and green. There will be related multiple choice that can give you some practice. And these lessons also show you, these are my key notes. So here's my notes on what human condition means. This is my notes on the human nature and what Hobbes thought about it, what Locke thought about it. And here you can see that there's additional videos that you can go to, and I'll rank them. I'll say this is a very good video, or this is not necessary. Things in red here are definitely necessary to look at. In the 20 video, or the 20 lesson, sorry, looking at the same stuff, again, green is the key information, red here's the assignments. So there's some stuff, the black stuff, this is extra stuff. Look at it if you wish. You don't have to look at it, but this is the key video to get started. These are the key ideas about nationalism. This is what Einstein believes it to be, and Charles de Gaulle. So you have all of my notes for the course. You have all of my notes every day. You should be exposed to those notes before we get together, so that as I'm going over it, it's your second, third, or maybe even fourth time looking at these concepts, and then it'll be more focused our time together. Continuing on with the documents, the online resources, as we go towards the end, so we look through, these are all the resources for the entire year. So the nice thing about this, especially for my 20s, being that they're all on there, you can work ahead. My 20s, you could finish the first week of July if you want. If you're ready to write that final exam in the first week of July, if you've gone through those assessment pieces, we'll write your final exam for you first week of July. So for my 20s, there is no diploma exam in August that we all have to get to at the same time. For my 20s, you could work asynchronously, and you can get there a lot faster. Again, you have to be done by the end of July, but if you wanted to speed through it and get to those assessment pieces, you certainly could. Once you go through all the lessons, this is looking at the 30, you can see that in my 30, I have chapter questions for each chapter in the textbook. So for those of you that really like to have things very traditionally laid out, you know, I need to know what are the key things to know in chapter 1. Well, here's a chapter quiz, chapter notes for you to look at, but then you might be saying, that's a lot of work. Well, guess what? Here are the answer keys. So to get you through the textbook as quickly as possible, I'm giving you questions and keys in 30 to look at. 20, you're not going to see this because the textbook's horrible. But in 30, as a first step, you're going to go through those, and it's going to give you very much clarity, right, to get started. Also, a lot of you are taking summer school because you want more help with the major assessments. A1, A2 in -1, A1, A2, A3 in -2. In these online resources, There's going to be exemplars. There's going to be documents that walk you through those assignments. There'll be lectures. And this is what we're seeing here, are sample A1s, sample A2s, many, many sample essays that you can look at here. And to some extent, I would argue that by reading someone else's work, you can add their voice to yours, and you can better understand the assignment. We do very well at WCHS on the written part of the diploma exam. We do it because we understand, to some extent, that there's a, we don't want to say formula, but there are strategies that students can use that leads to success. Your goal in 20, and to some extent 30 this summer, might be to become a better writer, to know what those assignment pieces look like. I'm assuming my 20s for the most part know, I'm assuming my 30s for the most part know already how to do them, but there will be time to sit down together and do this as well. You can see here that my 30s, some of you struggle on multiple choice. So what I've done with my 30s is I've taken every released multiple choice item that has been developed for a diploma exam and has been taken off the diploma. So we've tested it, and we decided that its time on the diploma is done, or this is a question that was built for a diploma, but we had other questions that did the same purpose. So I've gone through every released item, and I didn't have the key in front of me, and I had to work through the question and find the answer. And I recorded myself doing it. This can unlock more success in multiple choice. If you struggle in multiple choice and you're taking Social 30, go through these videos and see how I break down the questions. It'll give you some strategies. You're seeing similar things here with our 20-1 resource. So I get through the everyday stuff towards the end of 21 and 20-2. You're going to see there's another list of your evaluation document. There's the evaluation document for -2. And then there's these additional resources that can help you with how to do the tests and how to do the writing pieces. And for the 20-2s, I'm going to have an extra guide at the end with videos very specific to the 20-2-3 writing pieces on both the 20-2 and 30-2 online resources. What I also like to do is show my students exemplars. Here's a term project. Here's somebody in the past that got 100 on the term project. Make a copy of what they did. Make it better, hand it in. You're going to get 100 because they got 100, but you're going to make it better. So you don't have to redo everything. You're starting from 100 on these term projects. And that also tells you what are the big rocks of the course. This is their cast of characters, already done for you. Here's a sample cast of characters. So going into the 30-1 class, you have a list of key people. You can add to it. Hand this back in, you're going to get 100%. How do people get less than 100? They really should. They just don't hand in anything. Glossary key terms as well. One of those year-long things I need you to take note of. What are the key terms in the course? Here's an exemplar. You can make a copy of this, add to it, hand it back in, and get 100%. So the term project should only elevate your mark. Now in 30 and in 20, let's say that you had a test, an A1, and you ended up getting 60, but you're an 85 student. If you need a rewrite, you need to talk to me. I have lots of versions of exams. But the longer you wait in July, the opportunities to redo tests evaporate. But if you can show me in 20 at the end that you can do an A1 and an A2, those will probably be the marks that can sit with you. So your mark is very fluid. Don't give up too quickly in the beginning. Your mark should only go up as you learn more of the content. So take those marks early on in 20 as like this is a check-in. You know, this is where I'm at now, but my ultimate medical analysis will happen at the end of the course. So a lot of marks do go up at the end. You can see here that there's lots of extra resources. Here's the students' notes for the entire year. So this is the notes that they took for 30-1. If you're a student that doesn't take great notes, you need to see what notes look like, there'll be exemplars on there. Now the biggest question that you might have here today, what is the day going to look like? Well, at the end of the 30-1 resource and at the end of the 20-1 resource, I have the exact same outline. This is what the day is going to look like. So I just copied and pasted it. For the 20s, it's in green. For the 10s, it's in black. Now, I'm saying this knowing that some of you won't be working live with me during the day. So this is what we're up to, but if you're doing the work at night, that can work for us as well. aside from that diploma exam where you have to come in at a set time. At 8:15 in the morning, I plan to be live on a Google Meet with my 30s. The purpose of that meet is only to answer questions on content that they were working on yesterday that they don't get. So yesterday, a main topic was illiberalism. Still don't understand what it means. Before I move on and learn new stuff, I can't learn new stuff. I'm still confused. What does that term mean? So we'll meet at 8:15. We'll talk about confusion from the previous day, and I'll establish these are the objectives of the day. You don't have to be on that 8:15 meet, because you can understand the objectives of the day by using the 21, I guess, for an example, by just looking at our scope and sequence. Our scope and sequence tells you every day what we're doing each day. So when I go through the objectives of the day, I'm really just repeating what's already in this document. So the main reason to meet with me at 8:15 in the morning for my 30s and at 8:45 in the morning for my 20s is if you have confusion. To ask a question. And if we're live on the Google Meet and nobody's asking a question, I'm basically going to say, well, let's all get to work then. Now at 9:30, we're going to check back in with the 30s. 8:15 to 9:30, I'm going to assign you something to work on, but you don't have to be there at 8:15. You know what's going to be assigned by looking at the document. Because if you look at that document, every lesson for every day is already lined out for you. At 10:30 each day, I'm going to have a live lecture for my 20s. If you're going to be, for my 20s, if you're going to be there for one of these meets, that's the meet to be there for. But I'll also record it. So if you are working every day at 10:30 and you're like, oh, maybe this won't work for me, the 10:30 meet will be recorded. Now, if somebody has identified something at 8:45 that's really troublesome, then that gives me time to prepare a polished response. This is the best way to teach you how to find irony in a cartoon. This is the best way to show satire in a cartoon. This is the best way to contrast internationalism and supranationalism with nationalism and ultranationalism. Whatever is the issue that we saw here, if I need more time to respond to it, the response will come here. But this response is my lecture of that day. So we will record it, and after we record it, the computers here are slow, but eventually when it's uploaded to YouTube, it'll be there for you to watch. So all of my videos are also found on my YouTube channel. Same thing happens with my 30s. We meet after lunch at 12:30 for a main live lecture. That lecture might last until 1, might last till 2, might last till 2:30, might last till 3, depending upon how much content we need to cover and how many questions my 30s have. That's what your typical day looks like. I'll be here from 8 until 3 every day. You're invited to come in. You can be in the room with me. You can work on work while I'm working on work. And if I'm not doing a live lecture, you can ask me questions live in the moment. But the reality is not everybody has the opportunity to come in every day. Majority of students will work from home. So we need to be able to give you ways to work from home and be guided through the content. And I think that that's what this structure has done. I believe this is our 6th year of doing this, and probably our 4th year of doing at least some online. So we have had some success in the past, but there'll be some times when you're working at home that unless you're joining me on the meet, I'm not going to be checking in with you every day. You need to check in with me if you have questions. I'm not going to be calling you and saying, Joey, how's it going? Do you have some questions for me? You have been invited. You know when we're meeting. You need to join us at those times if you have questions. Students are not successful in summer school when? Students are not successful in summer school when they, unfortunately, allow the pace to overwhelm them. When they don't become prepared, when they don't try to get some momentum before it starts on the 3rd. So the 30s, if you're not going to be successful, then you haven't looked at the textbook, you haven't previewed the lectures, and you start falling behind. We're on lesson 11, you're on lesson 6. And then when we get to the exam, you're not ready and you're like, hey, can I do the exam next week? Sure, but we have another exam next week. Are you going to be doing both next week? So students become unsuccessful when they fall behind. So the secret to success is to work ahead. And having the lessons, the notes, the lectures all online helps you to preview and then view it with me and then review it after. In the end of each course, I need you to show me that you can do the writing pieces. In Dash 2, there's 3 writing pieces. In Dash 1, there's 2, and some multiple choice. We're going to keep it, I'm not going to say simple, but as purposeful as possible. Meaning, unfortunately, there's not going to be a lot of culminating activities meant to create just simple the enjoyment of the journey of learning. This is going to be very structured for those assessment pieces. I'd also ask you to email me and say, here's my goal. I need an 80, I need an 85, I need a 90, I need a 95, I need a 98. This is my goal. Or, I don't care about my mark, I'm taking 20, I just need to learn how to do an A2. So I know how to best serve your needs. I need you to send me an email saying what your goal is. So I'm going to stop recording, and then I'll answer questions from the people that are here.